They're looking to finish them off undefeated and have qualified for BlizzCon.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm back at the desk to bring you the final match of the day, and this is a big one. That last match was kind of a blowout, but this one I think is going to go down to a nail-biting 3-2 at the very end, and of course, one of our most exciting matches of the day. Of course, it is going to be Method versus Splyce, and that is Method NA, so this is a big, big match.
Yeah, and the dominance that NG showed in that last series really does raise the stakes infinitely high in this series, because of course they've locked themselves in as the #1 seed from their group on the semifinals, which means if you win this series, you avoid them in the semifinals. And NG completely dominated their bracket today. They were unstoppable, 3-1, 3-0, very strong team, of course, as we expect from the #1 team out of Europe. And you do not want to fight them in the semifinals and potentially face elimination before that final.
And I mean, really something important to note in this series is that Splyce have 3 members of last year's BlizzCon champions, Fabio, Botar, and Swapsy. So if Seedu's team, Method NA, can defeat the previous champions, they're going to be feeling awesome moving into Anaheim next week, and let's see if it can happen.
Yeah, and the big part about this the group stage upper bracket final is you're going to immediately move on. Yes, we're not eliminating anyone, but this is such a gigantic match for these teams.
Yep, like we say, there's so much on the line here. You just give yourself that extra relief. You're not going to face elimination before the semifinals. Semifinals, of course, is a big step up in your prize pool immediately, but like we say, the real stake here for me is avoiding NG Blue. NG Blue just looking so strong on the other side of the bracket. There have been some people generally saying that this group, Group B, is the stronger of the two. 4 very good teams on this side, but NG definitely have been the powerhouse on the other side, and avoiding them is really the prize for the teams that win here.
And of course, not only just avoiding them, but setting yourself up for potential victory at BlizzCon. And of course, Method, NA Method definitely has some big names wanting to win. Of course, you know, Snuts wants to take another BlizzCon win, and of course Seedu looking to score his first one, but then they also have Bean and Smexen, who relatively new to the tournament scenes themselves compared to Snuts and Seedu, but those guys really are one of the members on any team that I would say totally deserves it. They really put their homework in. They do a lot of practicing. They grind the games out. They reach out to friends for practice partners, on the tournament realm. So it's exciting to see these guys make it this far and have so much success.
Yeah, I think Method NA have a really good balance of personalities. They've got Smexen. He's the rock-solid, consistent player. He's always serious. He's always getting ready for the kill. And then you've got Bean as well, who's just there to make you laugh. Like if you're having a hard time, he's the one that'll make you laugh. He'll always keep you positive. And then of course Snuts, just the veteran, all the experience, already having a BlizzCon championship himself. And then there's Seedu. This guy wants it more than anybody at this point, I would say. And this is arguably his last chance. So let's see if they can pull it off. This mix of personalities, though, is quite amazing.
Yeah, and veteran Snuts, really does decide it, because in that last series against Method EU, we were predicting that as a very close series, whether you have it in favor of EU or NA. But Snuts really was the defining MVP for me in that setup. He did a fantastic job of not only setting up his burst offensively, and we saw many creative ways in which he was able to do that, but he was peeling on point with those Fear DRs, never wasting them. His axe tosses never overlapped with wind shears. This team as a unit were fantastic, but Snuts really was the MVP for me.
All right, and of course on the other side of the stage, they are going to be playing against Splyce, which came in second place at the EU Regionals, but they were really dominating the tournament up until that last match. So these guys, you know them from last year, of course. They have been playing so well. I really like Bob's, the way he was playing Assassination Rogue the last match. He really talked about it in the interview with Rich, that he was spreading his dots a lot, because that's the proper way to play. Get those Venom rushes out, get the extra energy regen to put out more dots.
Yep, it seems like Splyce, their team is all about doing damage. They play those melee cleave compositions, so Method NA are going to want to deflect that. So I would expect either the Mistweaver Monk or the Holy Paladin. Both of those healers deal with melee DPS the best, I would say, out of the available options. So Splyce need to expect that. They need to be like, okay, he's probably going to play a Paladin or a Monk. What would be the best to beat those? I feel like the spread pressure could do well versus both of those options, so they might just play the Ret Rogue. It seems like they're very good at that composition, as it's been one of the only ones that they played throughout the last tournament and this tournament, so I would kind of expect that. It's their bread and butter comp.
Yeah, and these guys are probably, I think one of the big things about them is that they are the hardest working team. The German machine, Swapsy and Boatar have been playing together since Season 2. That's almost 10 years that these guys have been partners. It's so convenient to have a synergy like that works so well. Fabio, of course, added to the roster, 2 BlizzCon titles under his belt. This roster, despite being 3 members, is definitely one of those teams that could take it all the way in this competition.
All right, you know, and Splyce really wants this win, coming off of a dominant win against Panda Gaming, of course, the team from China, and that was pretty much 3-0 right away. Yep. There wasn't much that Panda Gaming could do to deflect some of these attacks from Splyce, so they got to be feeling good coming into this match.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm really curious for the blind pick. I feel like the blind picks in all these series have been quite intense, and there's been a lot of curveballs. I feel like Northern Gaming Blue has been on top of it. They played some comps that no one really expected, like Rogue Death Knight. I think that was the first time I've ever seen them play that specifically. So they try to get every edge that they can, predict what is the most common comp that they're going to want to start with, and can we have a counter for that is the option. But Splyce really haven't shown any cards. They've only been playing that one comp. They could have something that we've never seen before, break that out, and then throw Method NA under the bus.
And speaking about predicting well, Adrian, how do you think this series is going to play out?
Well, I think the big advantage that Method US have had, like Method NA, sorry, is that they have the experience. That was the big thing we were talking about. 9 BlizzCon with 1 BlizzCon victory under Snuts, 9 BlizzCons over the entire team. That is a lot of experience. But they will be trumped by Splyce in this series, and that is because they have 12 BlizzCon appearances on their team. 12 between just 3 members, and they have 4 BlizzCon titles. I think this is going to be a 3-2 in favor of Splyce.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit. I have hope. I have hope for North America. I feel like Sea-Doo can definitely carry it on his back as the healer, with Snuts backing him up with that veteran play. And Smexon's just been so consistent throughout the tournament. He's definitely one of the best, if not the best, enhancement shaman here. His consistent pressure, his constant setup with burst, it works perfectly with their team synergy. Snuts is always following it up, so I really feel like Method NA are going to take this.
All right, Rich, you are the deciding tiebreaker between the predictions. Who do you think is going to take this series?
Supatese said he has hoped for NA for a long time. He doesn't need to hope. On the right side of the stage, we have the team that can do it. So Bean has always kind of been the morale booster. And I actually got to sit down with him for dinner on our way back after regionals, and he was in such high spirits. When he got here, it was a little bit different. He was nervous about a lot of comps, and I felt like it might affect him when he actually sat down to play. After that last win, though, he's in a completely different mental place, and I think that momentum is going to be enough to carry them to take the win here in this last series of the day. Jared, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Rich. So he believes that Bean is the X factor that they need to secure this win, and they're going to need all the help that they can get. This team of Splyce is looking so well so far in these tournaments, dominating the EU regionals up until that last match, and then coming in and 3-0ing Panda Gaming pretty solidly.
I feel like the winner of this, either one of them could win the whole thing.
Yep.
And this will be kind of a stepping stone to that point, as the winner will lock themselves into the championship bracket, basically the top 4 teams, and the loser will battle it out with only one more opportunity to make it and have that chance. So a lot's riding on this series.
Yeah, I mean, the winner of this series, I would say, is basically a favorite to go straight to the final. I really do believe the only team that stands between these two being the favorites is Northern Gaming. They will avoid them if they win this series, which makes this series immediately such high stakes for both the teams. I really do believe either of them could win it. But one of the things that we say about Toxic Youth, or as they're now known, of course, they've been picked up by Splyce, is that they are so versatile. So far in the European regionals and in BlizzCon, we've only seen one composition from them, which is the Rogue and the Ret Paladin. We've seen them run it with a couple of different healers. We've seen Disc, we've seen Monk, we've seen Restoration Druid, but it's always those 2 DPS. The question will be, do they have anything else prepared? Because I think against Demonology, which we've seen Method doing so well with, they might actually consider something else. They have lots of other comps. Maybe they can mirror them. Of course, their main classes are the Demo and the Enhanced themselves, or more likely, maybe they can even go for something else with like a Beast Cleave or something. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, the games are about to start here. This will be the final series of the day. Splyce, the returning BlizzCon champions, against Method NA. Sea-Doo's 4th attempt at BlizzCon, potentially his last attempt to win everything. You definitely don't want to miss this. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dog, tell your brother, tell your roommate, tell everybody, because this could have a lot on the line.
Now you can see Bean, of course, sitting back right now. We know that he's not going to be participating in this match unless it's a last-minute feign. But, you know, the players are in the grid, so we'll have to see exactly what specs they're going to play. I cannot wait for this matchup. We'll see if they have an answer. Let's see what Splyce can do. And there you go. There's the swap. Fabs is going to be playing that Beast Mastery Hunter. So this is that old-school Beast Cleave comp has come back because Bloodlust is back again, baby.
Yeah, Bloodlust is back. It combines pretty darn well with the Beast Mastery Hunter just because they have those offensive. You see them popping them instantly. There is the BM, there is the Bloodlust. So much damage, but actually it's being answered very nicely by the Avenging Crusader from Seedu, popping those offensive instantly, but Seedu, Snuts is taking so much damage. He has had to go through every defensive cooldown already. There's the wall, there's the Sacrificial Pact, and immediately Splyce enter the gates, and they are devastated.
Yeah, Splyce are ready to get their hands dirty. They're going in hard onto Method here. Will Smexon be able to peel it off? They hex up Swapsy. That will deny a lot of pressure. Smexon's hexes throughout the tournament have been flawless. Now following the hex with a fear. Good synergy there. They're trying to build some pressure onto Botar. They've got him caught at half HP. Fellord connects. Huge burst coming over onto Botar. Bubble has been forced. And now it's Danger Town for Splyce. This over-aggression could finally be punished by Method.
Yeah, it could be, but at the same time, they're just hunting down the pet from Snuts, and he's just taking so much damage. That's 10%. He might just go down. He does fall. Splyce taking game one, the surprise Beast Cleave. We were wondering about it in the EU regionals. We never saw it. And now, when it really matters against the LSD from Method, they take game one in dominating fashion.
I really would have wondered what happened there, because look at the cooldowns that Seedu had active at the end. He had his bubble still. Avenging Crusader wasn't back up, but he definitely still had a Blessing of Protection ready. Blessing of Protection isn't going to stop a ton of damage because it is going to be purged pretty quickly. But when you have to juggle those two, like your global cooldowns, I wonder if he was locked out during that last, because, you know, Snuts definitely took a lot of damage very quickly.
Yeah, and this is what we've been saying. That weakness to the Demonology Warlock is the pet. They get so much from it. They get the Soul Leech, they get the Soul Link. So many defensives are reliant on that pet, and you just play the Beast Mastery Hunter. You just do so much damage to it. You take it out. They can't instant summon their pets anymore. And they were just killing it, and they killed him so quickly once it was
A lot of the teams have been saying that Demonology Warlock is one of the hardest specs to kill in the game. I think they just found a comp that can kill Demonology Warlocks, because that looked very scary for Snuts to deal with early on and at the end of the match, obviously with him going down first. So Splyce coming out hard with a composition that they held. No one knew maybe they could play this, and now Method NA have to answer it.
All right, Rich, you were a little closer than us to the players. What happened down there?
Down to Fabs locking in that Hunter. And one of my biggest concerns for Splyce going into this tournament was the fact that they got rid of their fourth, right? They ended up going into one of the regional qualifiers. They actually got rid of Joe Fernandez, who was originally on that team. And having three still at this time, I was wondering if it was too arrogant, if they could not do it, if they wouldn't have enough comps. But now we see Fabs break out this Hunter, and we didn't expect it. Do you think that this is the team to be able to kind of truck on through with just three players, Jared?
It's looking like it. I mean, that was quite a dominating lead. Of course, Method dealt with that opener pretty well, I thought. You know, Snuts was able to live through the initial pressure. What's really going to matter in this series now is how Method can deal with whatever they're going to throw at them next. So even though that this Beast Cleave, you know, was that big opening shock, so I don't know if Method has something that can take apart this
out
spec.
the beans. Bring out the beans.
You think so?
I think it's time we see a kitty cat.
Yeah, I
Yeah?
think maybe Bean, but I'm not sure if you'd put him on fair. I think you might put him on red against this, don't you think? I don't know. If
Either way, Bean is coming out, right?
Yeah,
I just said kitty cat because he's known for that.
I mean, at the same time, it's kind of like I feel Splyce caught Method a bit off guard in this game. Because, like you say, Snuts did survive the opener, but it was at the cost of every single cooldown. Splyce ran in, they popped everything. This is like their 12 BlizzCons worth of experience. That's so much. That's where it comes into play. They realize if you come up with a composition that the other team is not expecting, I don't think many people expected the Beast Cleave, despite the fact we knew they could play it, just because they haven't. The entire regionals, this has kind of been the mind games that this team's capable of playing, and they knew they had to catch the team off guard whilst they were still kind of unprepared for it. They popped every single offensive cooldown 1 second into the game, and Snuts survived, sure, but he used his Stark Pack, he used his shield wall, and Seedu overlapped some cooldowns as well. So really, I feel like they could have reacted better to it. Maybe an instant bop or an instant sack from Seedu would have been more appropriate.
Now, Botar was really playing the all-in spec. Of course, he was playing Avenging Crusader, you know, to get that damage out. But he was also playing Unbound Freedom, which increases your movement speed while Blessing of Freedom is active. So he can toss that on to the Enhanced Shaman and just have him run even faster at the target.
I think they played Beast Cleave the way Beast Cleave should be
Oh,
played.
of course.
Yep.
Let's all go in. Let's get something done. And I mean, Method NA, how often has Snuts even been targeted? I don't think he's been the target for most of these games. So it might have just been uncomfortable and like, hey, someone's actually attacking me. How do I deal with this? What would be the correct cooldown rotation? Because they ended up using too many at the start and then falling behind because of it. So now that they've seen, okay, Snuts can be a target, we need to deal with that better. Maybe a bigger map like Tolvaron Arena, as they've locked in, could be an option for them. I feel like Snuts was saying he wants to break his Shadow Priest out. He's really urging to play a bit of Shadow Priest. So I'm wondering if he might break that out, and then Beanslayer on the Feral Druid. That's a lot of spread pressure. If they can survive the initial aggression, then Botar is going to fall behind heavily.
Do you think that that's what this map is saying to you, that they're going to swap?
I think this map is saying to me they need to slow down the series.
Slow down the game, yeah.
I think they got caught a little bit by that last game. No one expects a team of this caliber to die so quickly, even against a composition like the Beast Cleave. But I want to give credit again to Splyce here, because they were talking about how they look really deeply. Like, they really pay attention to detail when it comes to their theory crafting. They're looking at individual talent choices, and the Unbound Freedom was one of those. Exactly. They talk about how to build synergies between those talents, giving the Freedom the additional 30% speed. That was one of the reasons why they were able to pop Bloodlust so quickly. That's how come they got into the game so fast. And these little things, of course, Swapsy's always been known in Europe as one of these players who builds his compositions around classes having different like auras. So they would give like the haste aura, they give the mastery aura. He'd always build his comps like that. Now those things don't exist, but these honor talents are kind of like the replacement. And they've built a fantastic comp. They're going to lock that in once again. Why not? We'll have to see what Method can come up with. As
Method NA can play the same thing.
That's true.
Do you think they go guns blazing?
I don't know. I mean, it'll be a fast game no matter what. You know, when every target is hitting each other. I don't know. I hope they have an answer for it. We could see the mirror. I don't know how confident they would be going into this, because, you know, now that they lost that first map on Nagrand, and we always talk about how important it is, because if it does go to a game 5, it's always going to be your pick to counter. So
come on, what is it? What is it? Come on.
I'm excited to see what this is.
Can't wait. Come on, what are you playing, man? You can play so many things. I'm really excited here. I imagine maybe they play the same thing. They were probably off guard on that first game.
You think so?
They could play the same thing. Maybe they just abandon it entirely. Let's find out here. They are going to stick with the same composition. That tells me that they're saying, okay, we just messed up. Let's clean that up at the start. It's a bigger map. We'll have more space. And let's do it again. I think that's a wise decision coming out from Method NA, and then they'll still have one more chance if it doesn't work out. If it's a longer game and they're still not winning, at that point I think they should consider a different comp.
Yep, I completely agree. I really do think that they just didn't play particularly great in the first game. I don't want to take anything away from these guys. I just think they got caught off guard a bit by Splyce. I think they can definitely react better. If they can get the gateway down, they didn't even get the gate in that game.
You know,
if they can get everything down, they can set up and
yeah, having a gateway on that is pretty big. You know, yes, Shamans do some damage at range and Beast Hunters do damage at range, but it gives you at least a second of breathing room, which is something that they didn't have during that last matchup.
You know, Botar is actually playing Tauren.
Yep,
so
I really like that.
He's a big cow. He runs into the fight. He stunned Seedu. Seedu trinketed right away, and he war stomped him on the trinket to hold him in place. It was really offensive plays from Botar. It was a cool Tauren play. We don't get to see Taurens a lot, so Botar's repping that race.
Yeah, and Arcane Torrent would typically be considered better. Of course, that comes from the Blood Elf ratio, but just because they know they're playing against the Cleave composition, and they know
they stopped the gateway?
Like Casting Circle.
They stopped the gateway.
Yeah, they stopped the gateway again instantly. This is another great thing. This is that Unbound Freedom. They're able to get in, they're able to stop that gate, and they get the pressure immediately. We do see the offensive cooldowns. No defensives really forced though on the side. This is looking a little bit better. I think the sacrifice was the answer given onto Snuts in this occasion. So they're swapping over onto Smexon, but it looks like he's going to be okay for now.
It's just a dog pile at this point. Botar and Swapsy going away, trying to build up as much pressure as they can now onto Snuts. Now maybe even switching to Seedu. I believe that's just the sacrifice damage. All that damage was redirected to Seedu. He's dipping dangerously low. They're setting up a kill on Botar. They've got him caught in the middle of the map in a stun. Playing that aggressive. They're trying to punish him as the target. He manages to recover. Swapsy caught into a fear. They're going to switch to him now out of that. They've got him down to about half HP. Blessing of Protection and Sacrifice forced out from Method NA. They're going to be down 2 cooldowns for 1 exchange. Snuts is still getting pressured. He's down to half. They're trying to stay aggressive on Botar. Botar decides to bubble. He wants to stay in the fight. They want to stay aggressive. They're playing that really cleave-heavy Beast Cleave, get in your face, get a kill early strategy.
Yeah, but at the same time, they forced a lot of cooldowns on Snuts now. They still have the bubble on CD, but he doesn't have any big healing cooldowns once this Avenging Crusader runs off, and Snuts, importantly, has used all his defensives, and he's dropping really low here. This is going to be very difficult for them to recover. Telmon comes out, but they're just going right through it. Snuts in so much trouble, down to 10%. He's not going to get out of this. The fear comes out to Swapsy, full hodge onto CD. He bubbles out. He's able to keep him alive, but now, as we can see, the BM is coming up in 10 seconds. There's no way it's up now. He's surely going to go down here.
Snuts is just hiding in his Spell Lord, like, please save me, Demon Daddy. I need some help because he's just getting destroyed. Splyce is doing so much damage, and he just can't handle it. Method and A are going to go down in game number 2. They're looking for a cross kill onto Botar. They've got him low HP. He needs to get away. Smex is looking to finish him. He reconnects, but a big heal out from Botar buys him a little bit of time. They need to purge that bop off. They get the bop off. Can he stick onto Botar? No. War Stomp will deny the kill. Nonetheless, Method and A are playing it out. Botar on the run, mounts up onto that Kodo, gets out of line of sight. A close call nonetheless for Botar.
Yep, it was very, very close, of course, and that's part of this all-in strategy coming out from Splyce. They're not playing the optimal healing talents, they're playing for that 2-minute game, so if Method can survive just a little bit longer, we saw how close they were to winning that game. If Snuts can just find somehow, some way to survive a little bit more, but unfortunately, Splyce, once again, with this Beast Cleave, and they're showing complete versatility here. They go from the Ret Rogue, where they're kind of dampening, playing the longest games ever, to this super offensive Beast Cleave, and they are 2-0 up in this series, 1 game away from that semi-final.
I really liked the end of that game. One of the sneaky things I saw is normally you'll drop your Counter-Strike totem when you're going in for the burst or you're expecting the enemy team to burst. But one of the things Swapsy did was he held onto it towards the end there, and it actually did a lot of the damage that ended up killing Snuts at the end, just because it was that panic moment of everything's going on. Oh, I got to do damage to try to get them to peel away. Oh, we have to chase Botar. He's already used his bubble, and then that ended up securing the kill there. Even though the Counter-Strike totem probably only did a little bit of health, it still adds up.
Nonetheless, I mean, I'm not happy about saying this, but I feel like Prop Paladin for Beanslayer into Beast Cleave would be a good option to shut down that early aggression.
That could be true, for sure. I mean, it's suddenly, I think one thing you'd have to consider is if they do play the Prop Paladin, Botar, of course, is going to change his spec. He's going to recognize that it's going to be a slower paced game. He's going to play for something longer. But at the same time, I completely agree with you. Right now, they have something that is not working. They need to come up with something different. Toxic Youth, or Splyce as they're known, will have to lock in the Beast Cleave first, and the Prop Paladin may well be a consideration for Method.
Well, hopefully they have an answer to this. Rich, what's going down over at the stage?
Yeah, so I actually cornered down the player manager from Splyce during that last series to try to figure out some of the secrets that Splyce has been hiding from us. So I'm going to let you guys in on some pretty crazy news that might actually shed some light on how they were playing so well. Before their first match of the day, they all drank a coffee. Swapsy took a small one, supplemented it with a banana. But then when they went into this match, they decided to switch things up. They only drank sodas each. The player manager also mentioned a comp that they haven't picked yet. That might be important, but she said I'm not allowed to say it on stream. So we might just see the Beast Cleave anyway, Jared.
All right, thank you very much, Rich, for that insight with the refreshments that they decided to choose going into this match. But we'll have to see if Method has the answer, because this is looking like a pretty one-sided match so far.
Yep, it's that banana. That's all it is.
I mean, Method
banana
and
and the coffee.
they just need a little bit longer. Smexon
They
was
really
almost
do.
able to kill Botar, just a little bit longer. So if they can play a comp that can drag the game out to that point, I feel like that would be a better option for them overall. I could see Beanslayer, he's putting the helmet on, putting the headset on. I think we might see the beans, boys.
So one of the scary parts about playing against a BM Hunter as a Demonology Warlock, of course, is when you drop that casting circle and you're getting ready to burst, suddenly a Dire Beast Hawk lands on top and Stampede. Now, Stampede, it just hits a very narrow line in front of you, like a very narrow column. So, if you're playing Warsong Gulch and you see a Hunter cast Stampede, you can just kind of sidestep it by a couple feet and you just watch the gorillas go by. But when your casting circle is there and you know that your Paladin has to stay offensive with Avenging Crusader, that is a gigantic counter to casting circle.
Yeah, for sure. And at the same time, I think the biggest thing for Demonology Warlocks is the fact that they can't really afford to play with the Portal anymore. I mean, of course, in the past, they've had a fair bit of mobility. They had Portal Sprint, Portal Freedom, all these things revolved around that cooldown. But now they have to give up their biggest shield in exchange for that, so that he's very immobile. He can't really do anything about the burst coming out from Splyce. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bean playing something. The question is, do you really need to go prod?
Yeah, I was about to say
I feel
that,
like
yeah.
you could just play red as well. I think the
I
bots
think-
and stuff would help.
Yeah.
If they play prot, they're scared, I feel. If they
Yep.
play ret, then they still have some confidence. So we'll have to wait and see if they end up locking in the Paladin at all. Beanslayer might not be playing. They might just be talking, trying to mind game their opponents or something. So Dalaran Sewers could be the final resting place of this series. Splyce now lead 2-0. Method NA, they've got to make a comeback if they want to stay in this and advance to the championship bracket in Anaheim.
So do
Yeah.
you think they'll stick with the Beast Cleave going into Dalaran?
Yeah.
No way
Yep.
they don't.
For sure.
Alright.
I really do believe that. I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't. Even if they do lose this game, with the blind Beast Cleave, they have 2 more attempts at winning where they have the comp advantage. So, and that's one of the other things about picking the prot Paladin. I mean, sure, there's a
You might
chance
win one.
prot's great in
Yep.
this game, but there's no way prot is the answer to everything that is on the table for Splyce. I mean, they can just put Swapsy on a ret and he will just sheerly out-damage, and they'll win the game by attrition.
That looks like a ready bean to me.
It
like a
does
ready
look a
bean.
ready bean.
Is
The
that what
question
a
is
ready
he
bean
red?
looks like?
I hope he's red. I think it'll be. I think red enhanced was one of the signature compositions for Method in
Yeah.
the North American regionals, and I feel like for them to go down without trying that composition, which I mean, reds traditionally have been very good in these kind of cleave v cleave matches. So I would like to see Bean on the red, and I'd like to see how he performs on his first stage game at BlizzCon.
We haven't seen Sea-Doo on Mistweaver. Be nice to see him bounce back to that. It's what he qualified with. He basically played Mistweaver the whole way, so
I like bounce back.
you like it? Is that clever enough?
Very good, very good. Missed
Bouncy
walk
monks.
back. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop.
All right, so we're going to take a look at these comps in just a second. I'm really excited to see this. Of course, we can only assume that we're going to see the Enhanced Shaman, Beast Mastery Hunter coming out from Splyce, and that Holy Paladin adding in that little bit of extra damage with the Avenging Crusader. That kind of just tips that comp a little bit over the edge.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Bowtie is so intelligent. Like, I really love watching his play. We talk about him being the pillar. He can also be the pillar on offense as well. He shot calls for the team, and he knows when he's in trouble as well. Like, he'll have been calling so much in that second game, we have to kill here, and he wasn't afraid to keep going offensive, using that Avenging Crusader, making sure he is helping his team in every way possible. And I think the Holy Paladin is actually such a great fit for him just because it enables him to be such a great part of his team's offensive utility.
Yeah, and we saw Warstomp save his life in
Yep.
the last game
Right
too.
at the
So.
end.
Did,
Torn
using
OP.
everything. Just min-maxing. That's kind of the thing. It's like, this is the German machine. They're so efficient. Everything Germany can be proud of is resembled in Bowtie and Swapsy.
I mean, it's just a fun comp, too. Everyone gets involved. Everyone gets in there, and
Yeah.
it's a quick game no matter what. So if you're not interested in dragging the games out, you just want to get in there and do some damage, get early kills. It
Here we go.
looks like a really fun comp, but
Here we go.
this is what we've been waiting for. Who is going to be playing in potentially the final game?
Oh, it is?
They're scared.
Oh,
That
it's
tells
double
me they're
Paladin
scared.
as well. Wow, that is insanely defensive. Oh my goodness.
Huh.
This is
This
going
is
to be
like-
a good
Alright.
one.
They're hiding under their bed covers with this composition. Like, please, Splyce, please. We are going to be playing super defensive to try and not end this series here. So
This comp is like
Okay.
triple healer
Yeah.
and triple DPS. It's
Yeah.
like you have the Holy Paladin. I imagine he's going to be playing that offensive spec. Surely he can afford to with Prod and Enhance. But you also have Enhancement. One of the things about playing a long composition with Enhancement is we talk about those procs. If you proc enough of the Storm Strikes, and despite the 15% enough, it's still enough to take down your enemy if he doesn't expect it. You can kill people in a sheer with that Bloodlust, and Prop Paladins, of course, they provide the silence as well. They definitely have ways of winning this game.
So against a BM Hunter, one of the perks of playing Enhanced Shaman is there's an artifact trait which modifies your Crash Lightning. So when you Crash Lightning, which you, it's like you're basically your cleave, you AoE everything in front of you, and then your Lava Lash and Storm Strike will strike extra targets for a little bit of extra damage. Now, you know, in a PvE situation, that's awesome. You're able to AoE like large dungeon packs. In PvP, the thing that you care about most is it will buff the damage of your next Storm Strike based on the number of targets hit.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's good. Yes.
So when you have the main pet, you have Haiti, the artifact pet, you have a dire beast or two on top of that. I mean, that is a lot of targets. So if he can line up excellent procs, land a strong Crash Lightning into a Lust with lots of procs, maybe they can do enough damage that they won't have to drag it out to the long game.
And tanks also can buff the damage of everyone hitting their target by 20%. They can use their taunt ability. Normally in PvP, taunt isn't really anything you press, but if you're a tank, you can talent into buffing your taunt to increase the damage on that target. So Beanslayer, he's the moral support for his team, and he's also going to be the damage support in this specific matchup. But because they've locked in the Protection Paladin, that tells me that they're scared.
Well,
that makes me worried.
Okay, so Sea Sea-Doo is not playing Avenging Crusader. That's a big deal in this matchup. He's actually going to be playing, so he has 2 Blessing of Protections, 2 Blessing of Freedoms, 2 Blessing of Sacrifice. Now, Bean is playing the Disruption spec. He is playing a Steed of Glory, so when he mounts up on his steed, he's going to knock targets back, and that's great for this map. And here comes the damage.
Oh wow, Splyce opening up aggressive. They don't care about the tank, they're just disrespecting it moving in, but there's that knockback charger bouncing everyone, giving his team a lot of space. They've got decent damage on Swapsy. Looks like they're going to hex him up and make a swap onto Botar. Not enough damage though to really push him over the edge. His Avenging Crusader provides a lot of support to keep his team going. They're trying to stay in there aggressive, but like we said, that tank is going to provide a lot of defensive support. They're just not going down that fast. Method Innate launching another attack towards Swapsy. He's down to half. Botar caught into a stun. They're trying to run away from the pillar, trying to pull back. Nice sundering there from Swapsy. Breaks up a bit of the damage for now. Botar's got decent space, uses that artifact ability to boost his healing. Now they're looking for a kill. Swapsy landing an interrupt, but now Swapsy's in trouble. He gets stunned up. Smexon and Swapsy both in quite a bit of trouble as they're at half HP. The Paladin's major cooldowns are going to be fading here shortly, and at this point, Method and Aid, they're all at half HP. This is not looking good.
Yeah, they're struggling so much. The AoE, the tank Paladin doesn't really help with the AoE healing, so Sea-Doo really needs to do some work right now. No Avenging Crusader on him either. He's really struggling to stop his team. Botar caught up in the hodge though. Swapsy needs to be a little bit careful. He's holding on to that Astral Shift right now because of the sacrifice from Botar, so good pre-sacrifice from him. And he's able to keep his team really offensive right now. Of course, the BM Hunter provides that damage reduction, so they're able to play offensive. Swapsy always has 15% damage reduction, as does Botar when he goes for the melee DPS, and now the bubble is forced on Beanie. Of course, he does not have the auto bubble as protection, so he has to pop that cooldown early.
This is looking terrible for Method NA. They're just against the wall. They're all at half HP. Sea-Doo not able to handle the pressure right now, and Splyce are pushing in to finish the job. Bean has nothing left. Sea-Doo's forced to bubble to spam some heals out right now. His entire team is just dead. Splyce on fire right now. Fabio pushing in with the final moments here. Botar keeping his team aggressive. Sea-Doo in center field trying to recover here. Smexon's down to half. He may need to start running away, but Beanslayer has no bubble. They're just both down to half. They're looking for a kill onto Swapsy. They've got him down below half. Botar struggling now to deal with this pressure. He has no cooldowns left. Swapsy's trying to run away. They silence Botar. Can they follow that up with the stun is the question. It looks like they want to try and go for it. Botar's now down to half. Method and A are finally climbing back. Botar in a lot of trouble. He's trying to retreat away on that Kodo. He manages to create some space, but they swap now onto Swapsy. Beanslayer and Swapsy both in a bit of trouble here. Swapsy down to 10%. Botar's forced to come back. He gets caught into the stun. Full hex onto Swapsy. They're looking to end this game. Maybe Method and A can pull this off. Half HP remaining. Botar in trouble. Sea-Doo now getting swapped over to everybody in trouble right now. Botar getting silenced up. Swapsy not able to support, but those wings come up for Botar just in time to recover.
Beautiful wings, and it's combined with the Bloodlust as well. This is going to be huge healing out of Botar, and now Sea-Doo's in a lot of trouble, but at the same time, Swapsy's still not having to use that defensive corner. He still has the Astral Shift available. He hasn't used it. I'm actually wondering if he's playing the 45 damage reduction, which might not show on the tracker. That's a complete immunity to melee damage. I'm not sure if he's running that.
He is playing Ethereal form.
So he's playing Ethereal form, which means every 45 seconds he can make himself immune to physical damage. So that's a huge talent. Unfortunately, it's not tracked on here, but we can assume every time he drops low, that is what he's
Swapsy, he's dipping dangerously low. Botar caught into a stun. Method A looking for a kill here onto Swapsy. Looks like he's barely able to hang on. Swapsy looking for a hex defensively. He gets interrupted on that. Not able to follow up. Botar jumps down below. He's trying to avoid Bean. He doesn't want to get swapped to right now. Swapsy seems to be the target still, but Bean's down to half. He still doesn't have bubble for 3 more minutes. Sea-Doo has no cooldowns left. They're just pushing in. They don't care. They're trying to make a swap on Botar, but Botar's keeping good space, always staying away from the fight. Now pushing in when his wings come up, but he's going to get stunned. Smexon down to half HP. Bean down to half HP. Sea-Doo once again needs to try and save his team if they want to push in and end this. Swapsy pops the Bloodlust. They're looking to try and get a kill. Sea-Doo deflecting it. Now Botar getting swapped over to. Botar gets silenced. He mounts up. He runs across the map. Botar's spacing in this game has been phenomenal. Now the pressure's onto Sea-Doo. How is he going to recover? Swapsy dipping low. Botar gets stunned up, and Method and A pull this game back from the brink of destruction, bringing us now 1-2. Finally, man, Method and A proving that they can come back in this series. Now Splyce, they're going to have the advantage. They can know if that Protection Paladin's coming their way and throw something else at him.
They can, but even that Protection Paladin was a valid target. They are trying to play this out. Actually, Sea-Doo getting down dangerously low to 40%. Beast Mastery 100 damage has to be respected, even when it's down to 2 to 3 at this point, especially because Sea-Doo is low on health, doesn't have very many cooldowns up. The big game changer for me in that was Swapsy playing Ethereal form. Made that game last a lot longer than it should have. When you're watching at home, Ethereal form is it makes you immune to melee damage completely, but it replaces your Astral Shift. So he's trading his versatile 40% damage reduction to a complete immunity to melee damage. So that was a really interesting pick, and it really saved him because there was a couple swaps where they definitely would have killed him if he wasn't immune.
I mean, it was a very intelligent pick in many ways. Of course, it was the kind of the silvery thing that makes him look like he's fading out of reality. And one of the disadvantages of that pick, of course, is that you can't press abilities. So he is immune to physical damage, sure, that's great, but he can't do anything offensively as well. And I feel like when Method was struggling so much with spread pressure, the fact that he didn't have the Astral Shift, he couldn't just press Astral Shift and know that he's going to be taking reduced damage for a long period of time, but whilst also being able to maximize his own DPS, meant that maybe they missed opportunities to get slightly more pressure. We saw how close that game was at the end. Of course, Sidu almost dying in the 2v3 situation.
That might have been the most intense game ever.
Yeah.
I have to say,
And
when
it
I
really
saw
was.
Prop Pilot, when I saw Prop Pilot, I was like, this is going to be a snooze fest, but that was not a snooze fest at all.
They're valid
yeah.
targets. That was great. All right, Rich, what did you think about that last round?
Hey, we said before the match even started that Bean was going to be the X factor, and he comes in and they manage to take the win. That was definitely a different iteration of the Beanadin than ever before, but I think this morale booster is definitely going to give them the edge. Jared, back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, that was a great pick. I really liked that. You know, man, if they didn't have that Prop Paladin, that damage was absolutely insane during that. You know, Sidu did a great job, but you got to give it to Botar. Like you were saying, his positional, his kiting, everything was flawless during that match.
Yeah, and one of the things I really want to talk about is lots of the teams here, they come in, they say they have 10, 15 compositions available, but it's one thing to say you have all these comps, it's another thing to have the confidence to play it. We've seen teams like Method, of course, they have the Windwalk available, but they don't seem entirely confident in playing it unless they really feel like they have to. Whereas Method US or Method NA, they have the confidence, they have the experience to say, you know what, I trust you, Bean. They have very good work together as a unit. I really do believe that their faith in each other is the reason they're able. The power of teamwork and friendship, as Ben Ruki always puts it, they had the faith in being on that ult spec, not even remotely conventional. It was class stacking, it was a prop paladin, something we've probably never seen before in a World of Warcraft tournament, and they pull through with the victory.
But do you think the Protection Paladin comp can beat the other options that Splyce can throw out? I don't think they can play the Ret Rogue, but I know Fabio's must be practicing Lock somewhat. I feel like the Demonology Warlock enhancement could do well against that. Or do you think they just run the Beast Cleave again? Because that was still close.
Well, we'll have to actually find out pretty soon. We're going to take a short break while we let these teams pick their next map and comps.
The World of Warcraft Arena World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
Welcome to BlizzCon!
This is one of the coolest things you're ever going to see in your life.
We cannot wait to share with you guys what we have in store.
Welcome to BlizzCon, boys.
For Azeroth! We're exploring a lot of new locations. We invented some brand new characters.
The world could always use more heroes.
We retake our homeworld.
When we first did BlizzCon back in 2005, we had no idea what to expect.
Are we ready to begin the costume contest?
It is amazing to feel part of this thing.
How'd you guys feel about today? You excited?
It's so much more than a game in a box.
We have so much to show you here today.
It's just all fun and games.
Have fun this weekend. Take care of each other.
Have a great BlizzCon!
Of the storm. Prepare for Heroes Brawl, the new game mode that breaks all the rules. Rated T13. The reviews are in, and the critics agree. Overwatch is a perfect 10.
Psst, what are you looking at?
pick a side.
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for teen.
The World of Warcraft Arena World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
Down to 10% HP on a rampage, double kill. Tempo Storm are going to BlizzCon.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Of course, coming back to this game, it is now 2-1 in the favor of Splyce, and this means that Method has to find that correct answer. Yes, they may have surprised them with that Dalaran Sewer's Protection Paladin pick, but can they sustain with that is the big question. I think it's a risky pick if they do it again.
Yeah, for sure, but I think they have to. I don't think they have another answer to the Beast Cleave. They have to lock that in. And the question then is, what do Splyce have to answer? And of course, one of the greatest classes against the Protection Paladin is a Frost Mage. They don't have a Frost Mage. So that's certainly one thing to consider when you think about what Splyce will pay. They do not have the best answer to the Prot Paladin on their roster. So if they don't have the Frost Mage, what do they play? You mentioned the Demonology Warlock. That could be a great pick.
Yeah, it could be a great pick. You know, stepping back away from the gameplay a little bit, I like to think of every class in the game like a musical instrument. So you've got your healers. Those are basically your drummer, your percussionist. They're keeping the beat going. No matter what's going on, if you're losing, you keep that beat going, you keep healing, you keep going hard. And man, Sidhu, that was a sick drum solo.
It really was. He did a great job. I mean, there was a couple times when, you know, his wings came up and he was casting and the health bars weren't moving, but, you know, he got a couple of those really big heals off, which kind of secured the deal for his team. Botar doing a great job, though. His positioning was awesome. They really played that match as best as they could, and it just came down to the very end, you know, just a little bit of extra damage from that Protection Paladin, constantly using that taunt, which increases damage taken by 20%. And there are times when, if you are hitting a soft target as an enhancement shaman and you can just do a little bit more damage, those procs can just delete somebody.
I want to go back to Super's analogy, because I think if you have Sidhu as like the drummer, like he was playing the drum very quickly, you just have Bean every 10 seconds with that Prot Paladin like whacking the drum once. It's like this huge heal. I think it's like 40-ish% of the guys missing HP. So that was definitely something helping them out a lot during that matchup. And that's something that we're expecting to stay. We're expecting it to be the enhancement, the Prot Paladin and the Holy Paladin, a lot of off healing, a lot of sustained. The question is, how do Splyce best answer the drum beat? How do they knock the sticks out of the guys' hands?
So let's take a look at what map they are going to pick at this point, because this is a very important decision by Splyce. You know, they really get to dictate the pacing of the match. If they pick a small map, that means that Protection Paladin is going to be able to hit whatever targets they want. And look at that, Ashmain Fall. That's kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, that indicates to me that they do want some casters in this game. They want a slightly bigger map. They haven't gone for the absolute best. Of course, Tolvaron was a map they already won on, but this is one of the biggest, most open maps remaining. Blade's Edge, not so popular, although that is obviously quite big as well. I feel like they may well be looking at some casters here if Asher Means has been their map choice.
Yeah, potentially. We haven't seen Fabio play. That was the first time we see him switch off Rogue. Throughout the BlizzCon qualifier. So playing the BM Hunter, he looked phenomenal on it. Maybe he has something else as well. He mains a Warlock. I would say that's probably his favorite class. But for the strategies of his team, he's opting to play Hunter and Assassination Rogue. So I'm curious to see what they go in here. Now Method NA have seen the map, so it's their turn to pick their composition. Do they go ultra defensive? That game was still close. It looks like they're going to go ultra defensive once again. The Protection Paladin synergizing well against any sort of cleave pressure that comes out from Splyce. So I think it's a smart move, but I feel like Splyce have an answer.
So I actually, thinking about it, I didn't really think about this too much, but in Legion, quite often the answer is the healer, right? We've seen a lot of them swapping over to the Holy Paladin here, but The one reason that Splyce were dying so much in that last game was because every time Botar pushed in, he has to push in with his Avenging Crusader, otherwise the talent is useless. And every time he pushed in, he was taking a lot of damage. He was forced to use his Divine Steed or his Divine Torrent, since he was a cow, to get away, and that meant that they would swap it over onto Swapsy. But Swapsy is a very bad kill target for Method, just because he has that the 45 seconds immunity to damage. So why not just swap Botar? Why not just put Botar on the Mistweaver? We see him playing at Regionals. It's very strong. We know Mistweaver Turbo Cleaver is very good, but no, they are going to stick with the Holy Paladin.
It was close.
We'll have to see if they choose it or not, like whether they stick with that Avenging Crusader, whether they carry on playing as offensive, or whether he prefers to sit back and keep Swapsy alive, because I really do feel like Method don't have a great kill target if Botar can't die.
They don't, and it was a close match on Dalaran and Sewers. This is going to be a little bit, they might be able to get away from Bean a little bit, and Smexen, because you know the Hunter is quite mobile, but like you said, it's all going to depend on Botar's positioning, being really careful about using his cooldowns effectively. Let's see what he is playing. He is going to be playing Avenging Crusader yet again, and that Unbound Freedom, so that the speed increase while Blessing of Freedom is on a target. Now, on the other hand, we see a rather large difference in play. So Botar is going to be playing Relentless, so it is just going to have a flat CC reduction, and he's playing Tauren, so he doesn't have a backup, you know, trinket like a human would have. Now, Sea-Doo, of course, is playing Adaptation, so that is basically, it's going to trigger his Honorable Medallion if he's hit with a CC 5 seconds or longer, but he's not playing Avenging Crusader. He's playing that Blessed Hands again.
I would like to, if they find out Sea-Doo's playing Adaptation, they can trigger it with Hex, swap with a stun. Yep. Smexen won't have enough time to remove it before it triggers, so maybe Splyce can find that. Either way, we're 1-2 in the series. Ashenmane's Fall will be game number 4. Swapsy already looking for an early Hex. Does get interrupted by Smexen. Bean charging in, stunning Botar, immediately switching to Swapsy. Swapsy's on the run, trying to kite through that stun. I like that positioning, but they're ultimately going to reconnect. He leaps away onto Sea-Doo. Nice kiting from Swapsy, but they do stun him up. Bloodlust gets popped. Swapsy down to half HP. Botar forced to trade out some cooldowns to deal with this incoming damage. Tops him off right away. Good reaction time from Botar. Swapsy dispelling that Hex. Good reaction time from him. Now Swapsy popping his Bloodlust, trying to get a bit of pressure. Bean is on the run, or sorry, Botar pushing in, trying to get a stun, but he gets stunned up himself. Let's see if they can create any pressure with this. Now the stun into the silence. Swapsy seems to be the target for now. Triple War Stomp out from Botar, and now Sea-Doo's got to deal with it.
Yeah, at the same time, it looks like Botar really, he kept Swapsy alive, barely using anything there. He still has his Bop, still has his Sacrifice. Of course, he's playing the ultimate 100% Sacrifice Undispellable this expansion, and Sea-Doo is really struggling here. He does still have his bubble available, but his whole team is dying. It's a similar situation to last time. We'll have to see if Botar can do a better job of keeping Swapsy alive in this game.
Yep, Swapsy's just leaping into the fight, trying to stay on his target right now. Botar caught into a stun, though. Swapsy needs to be careful. They stun Swapsy now. They've got him down to half HP. He could be in a bit of danger here. Botar struggling to heal through the pressure. Uses that Divine Favor, connects a big heal. Smexen looking for a Hex, not able to get it. Sea-Doo pushing in, but now he's going to get stunned up. His Adaptation will trigger. Sundering, they're making the swap. Sea-Doo gets interrupted. He can't bubble. In a bit of danger there. Ends up bubbling after the lockout. Now he should be able to top off his team. He's spamming with this cast, but swap to Smexen. He's down to half HP, below half HP. He pops his Bloodlust to try and make a turnaround. So many turnarounds. Smexen now on the run, or actually trying to push in onto Botar, trying to force a bubble out from him because Sea-Doo's got very little left to deal with this. Fabio and Swapsy are on his heels.
Yeah, they're so far ahead in this game, and Sea-Doo's in a lot of trouble. He might just end up falling here. He does have his Holy Avenger up right now. He's at about 50% HP. We'll have to see if they can kill him. The bot comes out before the Hodge, but it's not going to be enough. He's caught up in the stun. He gets the heal. Huge heal coming out from Bean on that prop pad, and he is the only reason Sea-Doo is still alive.
Double stun, swap onto Swapsy, down below half HP. Smexen proccing, and Bloodlust is now available. Swapsy could be in a lot of trouble. He uses the bop. They purge that bop off. Swapsy is still down below half HP. They're looking to try and finish him off. They can't. Now Sea-Doo's in trouble. Down to 10%. This could just be it. They might be knocked down to the loser's side. He's trying to fake cast the inners, but so much damage coming out from Splyce. They are going to 3-1 Method and advance to the championship bracket next week.
And look what it means to Swapsy. He is screaming. They're so happy to have won this game. And ultimately, what beautiful play from them. Triple War Stomps. They understood the win conditions and they played it out to perfection.
They really did. That was a great job. They saw that Sea-Doo was really pushing up and staying kind of offensive, even though he wasn't playing Avenging Crusader. He just wanted to constantly reposition himself. At the end, you know, he definitely baited one of the kicks at the end, but it was just too much damage for him to get the next flash heal off. And what a great job by Splyce, really hiding that Beast Cleave throughout this entire tournament, knowing exactly when to unleash it.
Yeah, they knew they didn't need it in the past, I suppose, and now when it really matters, they bring out that composition, and now this is 1 week that Method NA, of course, they're not out. They're still in the lower bracket. They've still got a very good chance of making it through to the semis and therefore progressing in this tournament. But this was such a beautiful display coming out from Splyce. They bring out a second composition. They win the series 3-1. No one would have expected the series to end before Game 5, I don't believe. So beautiful play from them. And ultimately, we've seen 2 teams advance to the semi-final, and both of them are from Europe.
Oh.
Oh, come on. You're already firing shots? Already?
Nope. Well, I mean, it's going to be an exciting remainder of the tournament, of course. We didn't knock anyone out yet, so it's still anyone's field. But for a couple of those teams that got knocked down early, it's going to be rough for them. All right, and I have Richard standing by with the interview with our winners.
Yeah, so we just saw you guys manage to take that series, such a cohesive unit. Saw you guys celebrating a little bit on the stage, hugging each other. You've been a team for 2 years, but a large factor in your team's performance is definitely you. You were kind of able, you're the glue to the team. I called you guys a cohesive unit. You're definitely the glue in that. So what do you actually do to kind of keep the team together?
Every time we're playing, we end up raging a lot, which is kind of funny because usually we're like a really calm team, but like Fabio, he's Italian. He has like a lot of temperament. He's always like flaming us, like, why don't you do this? It's so obvious. But then like we calm down and I'm just like, guys, focus on the game. And we're playing for money. We're trying to play for money. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, reminding us of what what we want to achieve.
You mentioned Fabio being extremely hot-headed. We didn't see that today. He actually seemed to be very, very calm, and that does tend to happen when you have such a knockout performance. But another thing about Fabio, and we got to talk about this a little bit before, he's kind of the guy who's figuring out all of these weird comps, and he works on a lot of stuff. I know I see him lurking in the back there. I know he has something that he hasn't shown us yet, but what is that process like when you guys actually test out these new comps, like the Beast Cleave that we saw today? This was the first time we saw you play it.
Basically, Fabio always tries to like think of a lot of stuff. For example, why don't we queue this? This spec could be good against this. In the combination with this, for example, BM Hunter, 15% damage reduction with Enhancement Shaman. Does a lot of damage, but it's really squishy. So we're always trying to find like good combinations of classes and just see how that works.
So you have a little bit of time before we actually get to Anaheim and see the rest of BlizzCon. Do you guys get to take a break at all, or is it just more practice?
Definitely more practice. We want to play every day if possible. But you also need to relax, go sleep early, and eat nice food.
Well, I hope you guys have a really nice meal tonight, and I hope you get to have a little bit of fun while we are still here in Ohio. Congratulations on your victory. Jared, that's all for me. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Rich, and great hearing from the team that just won. I really like that they have that person on their team that's not afraid to stray away from the current meta, kind of try things out, you know, look at those talent combinations, and okay, if we pair this with that, we can set up a nice CC chain, you know, or like you said, that Wild Protector on BM Hunter, of course, has a 15% damage reduction to anyone standing near your pet, so that pairs really well with a squishy class like Enhancement.
Yeah, and it's like we were talking about, those little synergies. They have the enhancement paired with the Wild Protector, but also the Avenging Crusader protected by that BM Hunter pet. It's just fantastic to see them working out these synergies, and it worked out so nicely for them. One of the other great things about this team, one of the fantastic stories, is Botar and Swapsy. They've been together so long. They've qualified for 4 of the last 5 BlizzCons, and one of the most iconic memories I have of these two players was they didn't qualify in 2013. They were really close. They lost 3-2 in a series in the Qualifier Cup. But then in 2014, when they saw each other at the airport for the first time, they hadn't seen each other in 2 years. They gave each other the biggest hug. It was like they'd not been together for a lifetime. It was the most, like, it almost brought a tear to my eye. It was such a fantastic moment. And it's just so great that they have each other. Like, it's such a nice thing.
It is.
There's
It
no words
really
for
is. It really is. So let's take a look at some of the plays that Botar had over this last match, because, you know, we've seen so many great plays out of him. You know, he really the pillar of the team. That we called him that, but he, you know, here's the I believe this might be the War Stomp into it to live, but it was such a great job. He did so many. His positioning was perfect. His cooldown usage, like, just especially on this match for me. Even though they ended up losing this one, I really liked his play.
Yeah, I did. He just knows how to go from offensive to defensive immediately.
Look at that face, man. They always get revved up and excited. The teams put on such a great show throughout the tournament. I'm more than excited to get to Anaheim for the BlizzCon finals. For any of you guys
I know.
to that.
All right, so let's take a look at the A group to see how these teams ended up. Of course, we did play a bunch of the matches in both of the groups. We haven't made it too far out. Nobody's getting eliminated just quite yet, but here you go. Of course, Northern Blue beating Tempo Storm 3-1, which was a great match. And of course, then Panda Global defeating Longzhu Gaming 3-0. Of course, then Northern Blue 3-0 over Panda Global. So that means Northern Blue has made its way to the championship bracket. And then now we have waiting in the lower bracket, and those were all elimination matches in the lower bracket. And Group B, which is a really, really tough group. Of course, Method NA defeating Method EU, and then Panda Gaming losing to Splyce. Of course, the game we just saw, Splyce defeating Method NA, it was pretty dominating win too.
Yeah, this Group B really is the dominating group for me. I feel like all 4 teams could make it out. The Chinese team against Panda Gaming, Panda Gaming were so strong. We'll have to see how they fare up against Method EU tomorrow, next weekend. It's such a shame we have to wait an entire week for the next games.
Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Cool.
Can we just play?
So what do you think about the tournament overall so far, Sid?
I thought it was a great tournament overall. I was not expecting the Prop Paladin games to be exciting, to be honest. I was like ready to get a pillow, lay down, wait for dampening, but they made that exciting, being on that prot, synergizing with Smexen overall. So maybe they can work on that if they need a better option to deal with Splyce's Beast Cleave. Of course, they're going to have to battle it out now on the loser side to even get a second chance at that. So it's going to be a long haul for Method NA.
And Adrian, what are your thoughts about the tournament so far?
I think it's been fantastic. I really don't want people to forget about Group A, because of course that last series in Group B definitely is going to be fresh in our minds, but Northern Gaming Blue were completely dominant in the other group. I was a little surprised by how one-sided Method NA versus EU was. That's going to be one of the thoughts that lingers on my mind when I go to sleep tonight, but ultimately the conclusion for me has to be we have 2 semi-finalists, and they are the #1 and the #2 seed from Europe.
All right, well, that pretty much rounds out our first day of this BlizzCon Championships. Of course, we are going to be back in a week in Anaheim. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. Of course, Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, Asus, Republic of Gamers, of course, Twitch for hosting our stream, MLG for hosting our magnificent MLG arena here in Ohio. And of course, this is just the beginning. We'll be back for BlizzCon in November 4th and 5th. So we'll see you guys there.